Future. Welcome, everyone, at our Institute seminar, which today we will be with Sadia Zaman, who is our new colleague, who came from Wrocław, where she studied for her PhD for the last four years. And she will be defending hopefully soon, right?
Yes. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. And she will talk to us about her PhD research, about identity goals and motivations related to it, and so on and so on. So if this will be recorded and available on our YouTube very soon. Thank you.
So I will start. All right. Thank you very much. Although it's a nap time, but I would need your sustenance. What I'm going to share today is segment of my doctoral research as well as a research project that I was working and involved in last 4 years. How it went and what are the further details I will be sharing. We were actually member of 5 team members in this project, and my immediate supervisor was Professor Katarzyna Birka from Poland. So me, Hanna, Professor Birka, we were the Polish team, and Peter Golwitzer, who is the main PI, and the theoretical paradigm is from him, and Johannes, his student, they were from Germany, and this was a NCN-DFG grant, under which we were trying to examine how identity goal systems operate, how people pursue more than one identity goal, why I am using the term identity goal and not just identity and goal, and that I will be sharing further. So what is this whole presentation or seminar about? About the achievements we had in this project and the things that we were digging out from motivation and social psychology perspective. Moving on. What I will be talking today is divided into 3 main sections, a little bit of a theoretical introduction, some empirical research work that we've done under this theoretical paradigm, and what are our outcomes and how we concluded or foresee for future implications or the line of research. What next? Okay.
Why doesn't it work? That's strange. Wait.
All right, it moved. So yeah. First is theoretical introduction, and then in the last seminar, even we were discussing this identity measurement is quite challenging. There are so many ideas happening over the years, over the decades among different scholars, and how the idea of multiple identities follow through. I am and we are still bound to follow the research that has been documented, that these are different context dependent self aspects in which individuals assemble certain personal attributes over the time period, and then they label it or categorize it as the identity bearing features. And one such as in a self-complexity paradigm so far, which has been digged, which refers to the fact that we have multiple self aspects, and we try to embrace the uniqueness and the shared similarities of different identities that we would like to aspire to. And then we merge and try to pursue our goals in that domain in different contexts. How it is different from what we were working and we've been working, or what my work of PhD was. We were trying to see it from motivational psychology and in a self-completion theory paradigm. What does this theory say? This theory refers to the fact that all us individuals are pursuing a certain identity goal, and more or less in this pursuit, we have different type of self-aspect features and aspire to identities. And it's a constant strive. It has no clear endpoint. It's not like a label of identity on my passport. It's written that I am so and so on. It's like a tick in the box. But it is more than that, that I am doing certain actions, performing certain roles and behaviors which are long going and which makes me part of that particular labeled identity. And the second theoretical thing which comes from the goal systems is that even though there is a mere label, but under that label of identity, certain tasks are being performed, which are from motivation psychology, usually goals as the label is, and they are knowledge structured and organized in a way that you have a superordinate goal, subordinate goal, and you are in a continuous chase of achieving them in order to attain certain level of satisfaction or completion. This is just the pictorial image that how identity goals emerge. A certain identity goal, you would like to be a researcher, for example, and that is your identity goal. So it is like on the top hierarchy, and there are sub goals. You're publishing, you're presenting, you're trying to write something new, you're conducting data collection, so and so on. Whatever is embedded under that bigger identity goal would be sub goals. This is the case of a one identity goal, and at the same time we are having switch on switch off mechanism happening, which is like a spillover in which we are pursuing multiple identity goals. And sometimes goal A at the moment as a researcher is more important, but I may leave the goal that I would like to watch a new animation movie at home as an animation freak. So in a way, you have this nicer balance happening in your day-to-day life, in which you focus on one goal and then the goal switches back, or vice versa. In both ways it happens, and they are attained by certain sub goals, which are sometimes means and symbols to have it. And why it's
I don't know. Try with the
okay, so it will be the cursor.
I
Okay.
think we need to click,
All right.
I don't know why.
So why identity goals? I was mentioning a bit earlier. I always like this unsplash free photo. It tells us that we are all the time pursuing certain, and it's like a life going goal, which is like a staircase, and these bulbs and these light bulbs represent certain sub goals that you're achieving and moving on. So identity goals are basically aspire to long period goals, which are without the clear endpoint. From the time you aspire to be a certain person beholding certain identity, it may never end until you end yourself. So that's why this is the label of identity goal referring here to. Moving on to how does these goals are attained. The term here for self-completion theory says about symbols that we symbolize with identity goal. We collect certain symbols. As a researcher would like to publish something, this publication is a symbol of my researcher identity. As a woman, I would like to buy something nice, that nice and feminine. That feminine ornament is a symbol of my femininity. As a vegan, I would like to try a certain type of product. That these are all symbols. Either they are public statements, they are relevant titles, self-presentation, some ornaments. These are symbols that we try to collect, and we symbolize ourselves in terms of identity goal. For example, we were running studies on Catholicism and Polish identity goals. So these were some of the symbols, or how women in STEM try to identify with certain discipline-specific symbols, with the lab coat, with engineering equipment, with space equipment, so on and so on. So these minute things, or the larger-than-life things, are considered symbol in this context. Moving on, what is completeness and incompleteness? When an individual attains a certain symbol and successfully symbolizes, this endures the state of completeness. So this is a state of completeness in an identity goal pursuit, and incompleteness when an individual lacks the symbols. I'm pursuing a certain identity goal. I am unable to attain certain relevant symbols. I feel incomplete. When I get a certain symbol, the terminology here is called completeness. All right. What happens ordinarily, or so far previously before this project, the research was documented about losing symbols in a one identity goal. I am a researcher. I could not publish. So I will do something else. I would start teaching instead to feel fulfilled and try to come up with. Our aim in this project was, and part of my PhD was, can another identity goal be a rescuer? Can people have another identity goal which can help you when you have a failure in one? It can help you compensate in a way, or can it be documented empirically or not? So this research line, which I will be sharing further, is some empirical evidence from some research experiments and studies that how it is possible in certain contexts. All right, during the following presentation slides, I will be talking about key terms, identity goals, which we will be examining in the following or upcoming studies. I will be talking about parent and professional identity goal, Catholic and Polish identity goal, femininity, and STEM profession. Then you will hear the terms completeness or incompleteness, symbolic self-completion, in which we provided our participants with certain type of DVs or symbols to act on or perform, and what is identity goal overlap, like how similar these two goals were that led to do some action which was helpful in compensation. All right, so now this chunk of the presentation or seminar is about empirical research. First of all, I will be talking about this theme 1. Was there ever a possibility to compensate? And we examined it into identity goals among individuals who would like to be a good parent at the same time an efficient professional, and how could they cope the falling in one to the other one. We managed to have it published. What was this publication about? That individuals who are trying to possess an identity goal of being a committed professional and parent, when they were made incomplete in professional identity goals, were they engaging in parenthood activities as a compensation or not? So what happened in this? All right, so we had 2 studies. Of course, control versus incomplete professional identity goal were 2 conditions. The database for this research or this publication was from Prolific. We recruited hundreds. I think about overall first initial sample was 800 participants, more than 800 participants. And then we had to filter them with those who were very committed parents as well as professionals at the same time. And my years were the commitment to both identity goals, identity goal overlap, and how they would like to perform certain behaviors as symbols in the alternate identity goal domain. All right, what was the experimental manipulation? A control group had to write about daily routines, like filler task. An experimental group had to share incompleteness, in which we were asking that recall certain activities that were not good enough for you as you aspire to be a good professional. This manipulation task has been documented very good in inducing the incompleteness or completeness state in this research, and we've been using it consistently, and it is somehow working nicely as a manipulation to induce the manipulation among participants. What was the symbolizing? How could they act upon? We created a website, Science for Kids, because the aim was to see if they are incomplete as a professional, they are not good enough workers or employees, would they like to compensate by investing more on their children, their offsprings, as an instant gratification, because they are pursuing 2 identity goals. So this website was created. It had different kind of activities for children, and parents can engage in that. And the visiting with website was voluntary. Plus, participants were told that their activity will be monitored because it's a part of research. There were 3 dependent variables for this. First, visits, how many people would like to visit this website. Number, how many sub pages they will click, and how much time they would spend as a result. Okay, now coming to results. I will explain this slowly because the next one will be on the similar pattern. What happens is, now you will see there were 2 groups. One is control and one is incompleteness. The incompleteness is this orange dashed line and control is the blue line. Our idea or assumption was that participants who are incomplete, they will engage more in the activity, which is consistent here, that they were engaging more in the activity. Why they were? Because the understanding is that this incompleteness is making them to do more in another alternate identity goal domain. And here, through the page, this website that was the artificial environment we created, but ecologically valid, they were able to engage with their parenting related behavior, and that was gratifying this incompleteness in a professional identity goal. So in the first domain, which was about number, which was how often or what is the probability of them visiting the website, we found the significant interaction that participants were engaging more in this activity, which were incomplete as professionals. They were definitely visiting different number of pages, and the time spent on the activity was also more. These were the findings of first study. Then since I told you there were 2 studies, the second study, I will be showing the results to you. Why second study? First study was to understand and explore the idea. Second was more centralized, more cohesive. And it is mostly the replication of first, that our results or findings are not mere fluke, but there is some pattern and consistency happening. And this is not happening by chance. So in the second study, we again found in our replication the similar results, and like as I mentioned, that they were visiting website more pages, as well as spending more time on it. Moving on to this, what we found, that one thing which was important to understand, you will see on the paragraph, on the figure, on the very left hand, there is a huge variance and a lot of higher confidence interval. When they have nothing similar in both identity goals, there is no chance of engaging in certain activity. And when there was less variance, very cohesive similarity on the very right hand, it means that these are the participants who highly see their professional and their parenthood identity similar. And that is why the overlap is happening. And I will explain further how we were measuring overlap. It will make more sense in that next empirical study line. And that is why this was happening, that we were finding results. And that's why one of the comments here is, the first one was our finding that because these two goals are conflicting in nature, either you can be a good parent or you can be a good professional, their resources are always fighting with each other. So we were observing on our data that when participants are not seeing both identity goals together or similar in nature, they had more conflict. But when they were seeing that yes, these goals can be aligned, then there were a high chance of engaging in a compensatory activity. And what we will also notice that it is similar to spreading activation or spillover effect, that one goal is incomplete, but since it's salient and it is on your surface, so whatever next opportunity in the relevant identity goal is coming, there is a high chance that individual will engage in it as a compensatory mechanism. Moving on. Then comes this second one. In the first study, we were able to understand that yes, there is a possibility of compensation in an alternate identity goal. But here we wanted to see, can it be like reverse also? We like earlier we just saw that professionals incomplete made complete in a parent identity domain. Right now in this study, we were able to see if on the A identity goal, a person is incomplete and they were given the opportunity to complete in B, could it go reverse as well? Like if they're again incomplete in B, could they go back to A as well? So this was another attempt to extend the idea. We changed the goals here. We tried to examine it among Poles and Catholic participants who try to be, who identify as highly national as well as religious at the same time. And again, two studies, control versus incomplete participants and demographics you have here. This study was ran on a national Polish sample from the agency. They have Ariadna, which is a platform to recruit participants from there. So this is their own national database from which they found their representative.
Really?
Yes, they have Ariadna, which is a huge platform.
Yeah, there is a lot of polls, that's true.
So this is possible from Ariadna, a huge database, very easy to access. Moving on, okay. Overlap, coming to overlap, how we measure overlap, or what is the idea of overlap? Idea of overlap is that you have two identity goals. These identity goals can be seen similar based on certain reason or attributes. Here, for example, Catholicism and Polish are two identity goals. An individual who has higher sense of belonging to both can yield a stronger or higher overlap. It is important for me to be a Catholic. I rate the item 5 from 7. Total rating is 0 to 7. I rated 5. It's very important for me to be a Catholic. And then the same goes for the Polish. When I have a similar score on both items on a methodological level or a measurement level, then it suggests there is a higher overlap happening. When there is no similarity, it is important for me to be a Catholic is scored 3, but it is important for me to be a Polish is scored 5, then the overlap spectrum falls away. So there is no overlap or likely less overlap happening. So overlap we were measuring through this formula, which was an angle formula of goal overlap. This was developed during this project, and theoretical publication is on the way for this formula. And this was so far successful for 2 identity goals. We are examining it in more than 2, and we will see how smooth it goes for these overlap. So essentially, recapping, overlap is when two identity goals are seen very similar based on certain reason. For Polish and Catholic identity goals, sense of belonging and group identification, which has centrality, ties, and affect, were found to be highly overlapping reasons. For parent and professional, motivation and need to achieve and need to power, they were found to be very common in both identity goals. When participants saw that I have a higher need for achievement, this need for achievement was making them do the compensatory action. Even if I cannot achieve as a good professional, I may achieve as a good parent, and it will give the sense of completeness at the moment. So coming back to original study, what was again, we had the incompletion recall task, daily behaviors, and how you did not act good enough as a Polish individual, how inconsistent you were with the identity goal of being Pole. And then participants were sharing their narrations that I was not standing when there was a national anthem, I did not respected the flag, I did not hang flag on a Independence Day, and so on and so on. So this was to induce the sense of incompleteness among them. In order to complete, we created a website virtually, a church type of website, in which participants were allowed to light a candle. We were requested them to, once they are writing about their shortcomings as a Polish individual, the system took them to this external website in which they were given the opportunity in a virtual church where they can light as many candles as they want, and they would write some personal feelings, descriptions, or something like that, which were considered to be as our dependent variable. So again, we had two main dependent variables. One was whether they want to enter this church or not, or how many number of candles they are lighting. The decision to enter the church did not work because almost everybody was entrusted to enter, and there was a huge variance. So this variable was not further tested. Number of candles was still valid ecological behavior to be tested further for a dependent variable. And okay, the results were similar to the previous study. Participants who were incomplete in Polish identity goal were engaging in more number of candles. They were lighting more candles as a religious behavior. So, and why? When they had a higher overlap, when they saw, okay, I am belonging both as a Catholic and a Polish individual, I have a higher overlap. So even if I am lacking as a Pole, there is a possibility I do some religious behavior and it will induce an implicit state of completeness among them. Then we had another study, because it was just one DV in a previous study. And now in this study, we wanted to see if they are made incomplete as religious individuals, would they engage in a Polish behavior also or not? So in this one, we given first is that every participant was given these images, the butterfly, the yin yang, dream catcher, unicorn, and the tree. And they were asked to write something about it. Control group was writing something, and the experimental group was writing the same, that how these symbols diversify Polish culture. And then for the manipulation, control group was given nothing, and experimental group was given this image, which I will share here. This is an interesting image. It was found in the churches in Poland at that time. Yes, Catholic churches. And this was a warning for participants that, okay, whatever symbol you're writing, but they are not matching with your religion, so beware. It was a naturally available negative feedback type of manipulation. So it worked very nicely. And these symbols, I wrote from 1 to 5 that how these symbols were mentioned in this Polish pamphlet or brochure, that butterfly is about new age followers, or yin yang is about good and evil, which may not match. Dream catcher does not align with Christian principles. Unicorn is about sexual freedom. After seeing unicorn, now I cannot undo unicorn. I see them with the little innocent girls, and it has primed and ruined me for the rest of my life. And I am neither Catholic nor Pole. This is how it happens when you do research. And then so is about the good luck tree and so on. So this was a naturally negative feedback kind of thing, that to induce the incompleteness among incomplete participants. And this was our dependent variable. We provided participants an opportunity to draw a poster for National Independence Day celebrations, which is 11th of November. So on the left hand, you will see they were given these stickers, and they were to drag those stickers to the flag and this eagle emblem and make a poster. And the idea was that when they are incomplete, they will use more symbols and make it more intense type of a poster. And among this, we had further categorization about these four, the participants who are using these four highly national images or symbols, they are more reflecting their incompleteness into this completion opportunity compared to the other four. So these are all pilot tested, pre-tested, of course, and then we were able to execute this as a dependent variable. Okay, so for this study, we had 3 dependent variables: decision, whether they want to draw the poster or not. It did not work. Number of symbols, like overall number of symbols. They are putting 5, they are putting 10, because they had the opportunity to put as many as they want. They can drag even multiple flags, multiple poppy seed flowers, and so on. And relative preference was calculated eventually, which was to see that how many participants are using this extremely national symbols, the one in the yellow blocks. So moving on, again, we had consistent results, but here you will see they are not on the significant level. They were on the trend level for Polish symbols, like overall number of symbols. Participants who were incomplete were using relatively more symbols compared to a control group here, which was consistent to our idea that they would like to have immediate gratification and immediate sense of completeness retained. But technically, the clearer difference was that, yes, because these identity goals are seen very together, Polishness and religiosity, Catholicism, that is why they would engage more in very national symbols, which are very strongly reflecting their national markers for this occasion. And in conclusion, we did see that activation spread over element is happening, not just with the A or B goal, but it is vice versa as well if the goals are highly overlapping. At the moment, we did not know what is happening between this incompleteness and symbolizing, what mechanism is going on. So the next study was about identifying element of mechanism and underlying reason behind it. This was led by me. What we have previously seen is that when participants are incomplete, individuals are incomplete in order to the goal pursuit or identity goal pursuit, there is a tension and unpleasant feeling, but it was not documented on in this theoretical paradigm. And from this point of view, that what kind of emotions are there and whether these emotions are relevant or not. And we tried to examine it from different identity goals among women who want to be feminine and are working in a very STEM oriented environment. So our assumption was that when participants will be feeling incomplete, there is a more guilt experience, and when participants are feeling complete, they're experiencing pride related emotions more. These were documented on qualitative level among women who are working in STEM, that they experience this, but not empirically examined on a quantitative level. So this was one attempt, and it was to identify that between the state of incompleteness and before the action of completeness, what internal mechanism on emotive or feeling or affective level is happening. 2 studies. This time we had incomplete and complete, a more complex design to see it. Women in STEM, Prolific was my choice of platform. They already have options to select whichever type of participants you would like to be. So this was easier. Participants were reporting self-reported pride and guilt. Incompletion and completion manipulation was same as before in study 1 and part 1 of study 2, that how they are experiencing, share the narratives about themselves when they were feeling good enough or not good enough as a complete or incomplete participants in both of identity goals. First study was like this, that first we measured emotions in a neutral time period, then there was a gap. Then we divided participants into 4 groups. Double incompleteness means they are incomplete as feminine women and incomplete as STEM both. Double completeness means they've experienced completeness in both. And then we had subgroups as well, like either one is complete or the other is complete. And then we were measuring the emotions. What we observed first was that participants who were double incomplete were experiencing more guilt. It was like, it's an obvious thing at this point. There was a guilt experience happening compared to all other groups. Even though you are incomplete in one identity goal, the guilt will not reach that far as compared to the double incompleteness condition. And then pride is only less among who are double incomplete. Even if you have one identity goal or one side of satisfaction, your pride will not drop. This shows this like internal need to maintain and sustain the sense of completeness or feel better among us human beings. Then comes the study 2. Because study 1 was not clearly telling us if there is a manipulation of compensation happening, how would we see the differences? And plus guilt and pride were there, but we did not examine the general emotions. I mean, what about general positive effect or negative effect? So in this design, we were able to examine that how guilt and pride in general do in this situation as an emotion, and positive effect and negative effect from Panis scale of Thompson, in which you generally experience the valence and arousal at that time period. So we divided participants into these different manipulation conditions. First one, they were receiving completeness or incompleteness. Then in between the manipulation, their emotions are measured. They were given again another manipulation to see how the emotion changes eventually. I mean, they were incomplete, emotion measured, and they were made complete and emotion measured to see the difference if anything is happening.
And can you tell us a bit more how you manipulated them to feel first incomplete?
This was same with the recall manipulation, that they are to write about the failures and the successes of themselves. So this was this standard method that we've been using and documenting. So with this one, what happens over here, and this is about the guilt. So if I see the line, no, the blue line, when they were given the opportunity to complete, there was less guilt. And when they were given, the same participants were given the opportunity to compensate in the other goal, to write the success in other goal, the guilt dropped in the orange line because they were given the opportunity to compensate. But in the blue line, when there was no opportunity to compensate, the guilt grew much more because of this elastication happening in incompleteness. And this reflects somewhat that because the guilt is so strongly happening that whatever next door is coming up in the next identity goal, individual will try to collect the symbols quickly to rectify this uneasiness and this tension happening among them. And compared to that, when it comes to pride, it's also increasing the moment you will give the opportunity to compensate and allow them to have this completion opportunity as compared to when they are not given this opportunity. So this was like this attempt to see that, okay, there is something happening on the level which is more related to either guilt or pride related emotions when people are pursuing certain type of identity goals, here in case point, the femininity and STEM. And this can be underlying mechanism behind this incompleteness leading to do compensation in alternate identity goal. And this we found in this, and this work is in Motivation and Emotion process of publication. Conclusion, or coming to this thing, we did see that there can be different type of goals and facilitating ones. For example, in Polish context, Catholicism and being a Pole is very integrated. They are almost inseparable if I see. And sometimes goals are conflicting, family and career and your personal gender identity. And then there are certain emotional experiences tapping, and higher spillover effect happens when you see that certain goals can be activated at the same time and they share higher similarity. Then the resources from one goal can be utilized on the other goal as well. What is happening with this? First of all, this blue research, blue guilt mediating. Now we are working on this paper, which actually verified that when participants were incomplete, they felt guilt, and guilt led to do this lightning candles behavior. So like it was a more streamlined research in which we were one step ahead of it. We are also working on theory of measuring the potential identity goal overlap. Aside from it, we have publications over here which are also embedded in this, that when goals are overlapping, what kind of symbols we choose, when we are choosing certain symbols, how it influences the perception of both goals at the same time. And we also try to examine it among biculturals who were Turkish and German. And if you need any further information or more details on this, I will be at your service. And thank you very much for your patience.